We're here talking with Miss Stephanie Van Orso, who teaches 3rd and 4th grade. Stephanie has been teaching for 11 years in various grade levels. Stephanie, can you give us a picture of your general classroom management plan?
Sure. I use kind of a love and logic approach to my classroom management in that if you were to look at my formal plan, it's if someone's making a mistake in the classroom, which we call it a mistake in Love and Logic, but if someone's making a bad choice, they get a warning from me. Basically, I'll talk to them about what they need to do to fix it. And then if they still are continuing to make the same mistake, I will help them fix it. That could be something like helping them find a new place to sit, or redirecting them to their work that they're supposed to be doing, those kind of things. If they still are making the bad choice a third time, that's when there would probably be a consequence of some sort. Depending on what the behavior is, the consequence could be different. I mean, it could be that we're calling parents and discussing it, or it could be as simple as they've used up some of my time, so I will use some of their time so that they can finish the assignment or whatever it is that they're supposed to work on in class.
So does that look like keeping them in from recess, or perhaps like taking away a fun activity?
Yes, absolutely. It could be that they stay in from recess so that they can work on whatever it is that they didn't finish. It could be that they don't get to participate in a different part of our day that's really exciting, or their specials classes. Or it also could be that it gets sent home and that they work on it with their parent at home during some time that they normally wouldn't have to be working on homework, but instead they're finishing up what they need to do in class.
Okay, so you went over your consequences. How about some rewards that you give students?
We do kind of a program called Self Manager in our class, in our grade level. And that's kind of a checklist of all these different behaviors. It's things like hallway behavior and completing your assignments, getting your homework done, being a good friend, solving friendship problems on your own without seeking help if you don't need to. Of course, we want them to get help if they need it. But, it's just a huge list of 15 or 20 things, and it's all about how students can manage themselves to be the best student that they can be. And so if they're able to meet all of those things, they become a self-manager. And really, self-managers, a lot of it is just in that title of being a self-manager, but sometimes there's some perks that go along with it. We have a breakfast for them once a week that they bring in the food and everything, but they get to come a little early and eat breakfast. They can sit on their risers. They might be able to have some other benefits, like using the restroom when they feel like they need to go instead of having to wait to a specific time, like those kind of things. I also use positive praise, but I try to use very specific praise. In other words, if a child has worked really hard on a drawing and I can tell that they have done multiple drafts and they've really taken a look at it, made adjustments, and done it again, I would compliment them on how hard they worked on that instead of just saying that's beautiful or that looks really nice. Like to actually give them very specific praise on what you see that they're accomplishing. And it's even better if it's stuff that they usually struggle with.
Yeah, that's great, especially like you said, what they struggle with and knowing that they're making progress on that.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Great. So how would you say that you keep your management consistent and meaningful for students?
I'm a humongous believer that in the beginning of a school year, you have to be so consistent. Like every single time you want them to do something, it has to be done the right way. Especially in the beginning. It gets a little bit looser as the year goes on. But for example, if you're teaching students how to run through centers, like if you're doing centers in your classroom, it may take 15 or 20 times of stopping and practicing just the rotation and getting to work in centers. And I really believe that if you invest a ton of time at the beginning of the year, which sometimes feels like a waste of time, but if you invest a ton of time at the beginning of the year on that, it will be consistent throughout the year. Your students know what your expectations are, and when they step out of line, other kids recognize it too and try and help redirect that. So I guess in order to stay consistent, I think that you have to teach them exactly what your expectations are and practice them and practice them and practice them and practice them until you're sick of hearing your voice having them practice them, but it'll pay off in the long run.
That's great.
Yeah, that's my thought on that.
Okay, great. Thank you. And lastly, do you have any tips for first-year teachers on what to do when challenging behavior arises?
Yeah, I think that's really hard when you're a beginning teacher, but the main thing that I try to remember when I'm talking to new teachers is to not take behavior personally, because sometimes you'll feel like they're acting out and they're doing this to you, but they're not. You have to remember that kids are little people who have all of these other things going on in their life, and just because they're, talking out in your classroom or making bad choices, it's not necessarily a reflection of you. So you have to take that time to make a connection with a student and have them respect you. And I don't mean respect as in listen to you and obey you. I mean respect you as in there's a mutual respect there, and that they want to complete their work. They want to have good behavior because they want your classroom to run smoothly just like you do. And I think a lot of times working with kids that are tough, like they'll be mean to you. They really will be mean, but you have to remember that they're not really acting out towards you. They're just acting out, period.
Mm-hmm. That's a good thing to remember. I can definitely attest to feeling very personally attacked my first year of teaching.
And it's so hard, and then you realize, okay, wait a second, this is just normal kid behavior, and there's probably something else going on in their life that's a struggle for them. This is a place that that they're safe. This is a safe place for them, and so they let that out sometimes when they really shouldn't.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about your classroom management, Stephanie.
Anytime.